Welcome back to Watch the Bookerman and to episode number 27 of Paul Heyman's TNA 2010. This is probably one of the most important shows that I've booked so far, or the biggest episode of Impact I've booked so far, because this is the go-home show to Slammiversary 8, the biggest pay-per-view that we've booked so far, and for that reason, this episode really needs to hit it out of the park so that we can ensure all the storylines have significant heat and we get the best possible rating for that pay-per-view this Sunday. We are of course in the Impact Zone, and let's get into the final episode of TNA Impact before Slammiversary. And the show begins with Daniels leading Bad Influence down to the ring, opening up our go-home show. He is in high spirits and goes on to explain that he isn't afraid of this so-called dream team for Slammiversary, because last week the man who walked into the light, that wasn't Sting. Daniels goes on to explain that he's seen this trick pulled before by that guy, but he knows that Sting isn't even with TNA anymore. He retired at Bound for Glory, he was beaten, his contract ended, he is done with the company. Bad Influence will be at Slammiversary on Sunday, but before then, they have themselves a tune-up match. Once again, Daniels has used his extensive contacts to expose the truth, and having thrown a few dollars at these three opponents, these guys were desperate to get a booking, so Daniels is just giving them some money to show up here tonight. He introduces the fake Sting that was used last week. He's once again intercepted AJ Styles' trickery, and the fake Sting is joined by his partners for tonight, Air Paris, who we saw last week, and Tomko, who we haven't seen in a long time. He's just on a one-night deal for tonight's show, Tomko. He's located in the southeast area. He was on the local talent screen. We've got Chris Harris we've brought in as well as the fake Sting, as well as Air Paris, who I managed to get again on a one-night deal. Bad Influence, of course, convincingly beat this ragtag bunch of guys in 7 minutes 17. We give each of the three guys a couple of minutes to beat on one of their opponents before Matt Morgan. I'm sure I set Matt Morgan to be the winner. Maybe I put Frankie Kazarian. I wanted it to be the Carbon Footprint, but it's instead Frankie Kazarian who pins Air Paris. Daniels head and shoulders above everybody else with a 70. But Morgan and Kazarian, it's okay, considering how big of a match they're in at the pay-per-view. Perhaps we could have hoped for a little bit better. Maybe with the pressure or the raised stakes of the pay-per-view will bring a little bit more out of them. Tomko not doing bad, to be fair, but he will be gone after tonight. It's not a return for him, it's just a one-off thing. Of course, Daniels saying before the match that he threw some money at these guys, so very much belittling the opponents as they stand tall in the ring. For some reason, Matt Morgan's not showing on screen, but the three of them do stand tall on screen. A one-sided victory, warm-up match for this Sunday's Slammiversary, and later tonight, according to commentary, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy and Sting will appear in the ring. Before the opener, Daniels claimed that Sting would not be here tonight, but Morrow is sure that Daniels will be confronted with the truth later tonight. So it's not a great start to the show. I don't think I took notice of what the opening promo was, but I don't think it didn't stand out if it did, and then the match wasn't great. Thankfully, this doesn't have anything to do with the storyline, so it doesn't hurt us at all, but that opening segment I think might have not been that good. I'll see at the end of the show, but hopefully this segment at the end of the night that we've got can get us back up to a decent level of heat for this storyline. And it's another poor segment. This go-home show hasn't kicked off in the best way. I mean, I don't expect much from a Sabin and Shelley promo. I probably should have scripted them, but they're interviewed by Jeremy Borash talking about tonight's main event. They'll face the British Invasion and the Hooligans, with the victorious team going on to challenge Beer Money at Slammiversary for the World Tag Team titles. They put over the fantastic starts to the year that they had. They are one of the hottest properties in TNA, but not everything has gone to plan for them since then. They can trace it back, of course, to Beer Money invoking their Feast or Fire briefcase just moments after the Machine Guns had defeated Team 3D in a tables match. From that moment, Motor City Machine Guns focused on revenge and redemption, but tonight it is just about victory. At Destination X, they were desperate for vengeance, and that clouded their judgment. But at Slammiversary, they only care about gold. So the Machine Guns losing heat to the storyline, but putting over that they are very much focused now just on winning the match. They've tried, or they're going to try and take the emotion out of it if they are to win that number one contenders match tonight, and they think that they'll fare better at Slammiversary than they did at Destination X. We then get a video package looking back at the debut of Mischief in TNA, looking back to 3 weeks ago when she jumped Daphne from behind, essentially replacing her as the partner of Alyssa Flash. Last week, Daphne caused an incident in the back between herself and Mischief, which leads to their match tonight. At Slammiversary, Alyssa Flash and Mischief will face the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, which is Awesome Kong and Hamada. If Daphne has her way though, Mischief will be far from 100% because this match is just 3 nights before that event. Alyssa Flash was against Mischief facing Daphne tonight because she wants her partner to be 100% before the pay-per-view, but Mischief insisted that she had to put Daphne back in her place. And as Daphne makes her entrance, she is attacked from behind by Mischief, who is followed by Alyssa Flash. Chiff lays out her opponent on the ramp, showing her brutal side once again as she throws Daphne into the guardrail. She then drags her opponent to her feet by her hair and takes her down to ringside, launching her into the steel steps. Alyssa Flash then leads Mischief into the ring, with their mission apparently successful. Flash didn't want this match to happen, and with the beatdown before the match, it looks like it's not going to. But as Daphne is led away, the Scream Queen insists that she is fine. She breaks free of the medics who were taking her to the back and makes it clear she's competing, she is ready right now, and she walks into the ring. This match is on. Mischief getting better at a gimmick, but losing heat to the storyline with another very, very poor segment. Let's hope the show picks up. I know they're not popular, but I would have hoped for a little bit better than that. Match cooling the crowd a little bit, Mischief getting a 44, so there is something to work with there, and she wins in 2 minutes and 51. It's a short match because of the pre-match attack. She shouldn't have competed, really, but she decided to anyway, and this doesn't play into her favour, and she loses in 2 minutes and 51. So a decisive dominant victory for Mischief, albeit with the caveat that she did attack her opponent before the bell. As Alyssa Flash and Mischief stand tall in the ring, we see the New Age appearing on the big screen. Awesome Kong and Hamada look to be making their way towards ringside, but Jimmy Jacobs desperately pleads with them to stop. He doesn't want to have a big incident right now. He doesn't want them to risk getting any injuries. He wants them to save up their anger and to use their frustrations this Sunday at Slammiversary. Jacobs does then, however, turn to the camera to address the two women in the ring, telling Flash and Mischief that they may have their own vision laid out, but without leadership and direction, they will fail. The New Age, on the other hand, is destined to be the future of pro wrestling because his mind is behind every move that they make. Every single step that he takes is to secure the success of the New Age and ensure that the rightful knockout champions leave Slammiversary with their titles. People might not always understand the decisions that Jimmy Jacobs makes, but he is always one step ahead, and he promises that at Slammiversary, the New Age will stand tall, dominant with the Knockouts tag team titles. AJ Styles is then approached in the back by Lauren Brooke, who asks him about the apparent appearance of Sting later tonight on Impact. AJ says that he hasn't spoken with Sting today, but he knows that Jeff Hardy spoke with him earlier in the week. Styles says that Daniels is in denial at the moment, and that's fine, because come the end of the night, the reality of what's coming to him and Bad Influence will sink in for them. We go into another in-ring segment, Mr. Anderson coming down to the ring, joined by Big Rob Terry and Sean Bashir. Having spoken very little since losing to Kurt Angle at Sacrifice, Anderson says that D'Angelo De Niro talks too much, but in reality, he never says anything. Bashir then steps forward, puts on a pair of Pope sunglasses and does a parody promo of him. He's using some of De Niro's catchphrases, but he's otherwise speaking in vague terms. The idea being that he is mocking D'Angelo De Niro's promo style by saying nothing of substance, but by trying to sound charismatic. I don't think Bashir would pull it off as well as De Niro, but that's kind of the point. Anderson thinks it's just as simple as saying a few buzzwords, whereas of course D'Angelo De Niro has the charisma and the entertainment skills that take it to the next level. Anderson is entertained by Bashir's attempt at the promo, but D'Angelo De Niro isn't. The Pope comes down to the ring and says that he is more than happy to have some fun poked at him, and he throws a few back at the three men in the ring. They don't take it so well, and Pope says the difference between the talk between the two of them, however, is D'Angelo Dinero backs his talk on his own in the ring, while Anderson gets somebody else to do his dirty work. Anderson doesn't like this, and the two go face to face, Anderson having to stop Rob Terry from taking Pope down there and then. They do not like what he's had to say to Anderson. D'Angelo Dinero intensely looks in the eyes of Anderson, who gives him an intense look back. It's clear that these two just do not like each other. There's no particular personal reason for them to hate each other. We've not had a big attack. Well, there's that attack last week, but this came about more of two egos clashing, and Anderson is told by Pope he'll see him on Sunday, but he wants to see just Anderson and not these two idiots who follow him around. Sean Bashir improvising well, Anderson benefiting from the catchphrase, D'Angelo Dinero doing a masterful job, gaining heat to the storyline, so a really successful segment there, a 72. I think if I did it just on Anderson and Dinero, it could have been even better, but there's a chance that this storyline goes beyond Slammiversary, so I didn't want to use everything that we have in the repertoire, and we'll see how things go depending on the result of the pay-per-view. British Invasion are the next to be interviewed by Jeremy Borash, and they put over their arrogance and perceived superiority based just on the fact that they're British, so they think that makes them better. They say that Great Britain is the true home of pro wrestling, and as such, the World Tag Team Championships should go home with them. They point out that since Beer Money have become the champions, they've beaten the Motor City Machine Guns and they've beaten the Hooligans, but they haven't beaten British Invasion. According to them, that makes them the only logical choice to be the number one contenders. However, things don't work like that, and tonight they'll have to earn that shot, but they're supremely confident that they'll do just that. Brutus Magnus says that British Invasion haven't lost a match in over 3 months, and tonight and then Slammiversary are going to be 2 more victories for the greatest tag team in TNA Wrestling. So both teams so far pretty confident that they'll be going to Slammiversary. With, of course, we'll speak with the Hooligans later tonight, but before then we go into a 10-woman battle royal, which is an average match. I thought we got ratings for everybody in the match, even though it's a 10-person. Apparently not, but I will just go through. Daphne comes back out, which is obviously quite surprising considering she's just been beaten up, but we're showing a resilience to her there. She lost that match, but she's come back out. Honestly, nothing to do with the fact that we only had about 7 knockouts available for this match. Of course, the rest are pretty self-explanatory. We've got Tracy Brooks in there, who is Kazarian's manager most of the time, but she can compete from time to time. And Shelly Martinez, who does have some history with Paul Heyman. Also, she was just a local talent available on the screen. Most importantly, though, it is Sara Del Rey's TNA Impact debut. Terrible wrestling, which I can probably imagine this match being a bit of a mess. I'm not sure who road agented it, I can't remember. So Terry Taylor, I mean, it's not his fault that the match wasn't great, but advancing the Queen of the Mountain storyline as Sara Del Rey wins the Battle Royal in 12 minutes and 26. The other members of the Final Four were Taylor Wilde, Velvet Sky and ODB, with Taylor Wilde being the final elimination. Velvet Sky was encouraged by Angelina Love at ringside. Of course, if Velvet Sky's in the match, she can help Angelina Love get that win, which is seemingly the MO of the Beautiful People. She didn't manage that. She came close, but was eliminated by ODB. We then had a bit of an exchange between Sara Del Rey and Taylor Wilde, just so that we could show off some of Del Rey's wrestling ability. It's quite difficult in a battle royal to show anything of anybody. We gave a couple of minutes at the end where it was just a one-on-one before Taylor Wilde was thrown to the outside. So a strong victory for Sara Del Rey in her in-ring debut. Also to note, Tara was on commentary for the match, and during the match, it doesn't say there, but I'm sure I put it in the road agent notes. Yeah, Madison Rayne at ringside. So we've got Angelina Love at ringside for Velvet Sky. We've got Tara on commentary. We've got Sara Del Rey, the victor, in the ring. And we've also got Madison Rayne coming down about halfway through the match and just standing at ringside as well. After the match, Sara Del Rey stands tall. The final entrant confirmed, as I said. All those things that I just pointed out means that Sara is now surrounded by 3 of her 4 opponents for Slammiversary. Feeling left out, the other competitor, Sarita, perhaps an underdog going into the match. She's not really been in the Knockouts Championship scene, particularly since she's been in a tag team for quite a while. The first hour of Impact ending with all 5 competitors in that match sizing each other up, all on screen together, as you can see there. This Sunday, the first ever Queen of the Mountain match will take place, a historic ladder match and the biggest challenge of Tara's Knockouts Championship reign so far. That ends a pretty poor hour. I think if we were doing a 1 hour show and that was a show, I'd be lucky for it to get a 50, to be honest. Not a good way to start the show, but of course we can put over the historic moment that's coming on Sunday. It will just be pretty much a normal ladder match, albeit with those penalty boxes. We're not going to do the reverse ladder thing like I mentioned previously, but it should be a big match for the knockouts as we return for the second hour of the show and Paul Heyman comes down to the ring. His job is to promote Slammiversary. He goes through all the card and puts over all the matches, but his focus is on the World Heavyweight Championship, the biggest show since his arrival, the biggest matches since his arrival. He puts over the work that the men and women involved in this show have put in and says that this is one pay-per-view that nobody can afford to miss. He runs down the matches and announces that there will be a tag team battle royal with the teams who lose in tonight's number one contendership match and other guys who just aren't on the card. If there's guys who can't find a partner, then Paul is going to find a partner for them, and he promises a few returns and a few surprises for that match. It's basically the match with all the stragglers who aren't booked for the pay-per-view. I wasn't desperate to use everybody on a pay-per-view because I think having a bit of exclusivity as to who gets on pay-per-view can be a good thing, but with it being Slammiversary and with everybody doing so well since the start of the year, I kind of paired up everybody who was left off the card, and I felt that there was quite a good match with a few surprises and a few odd couple pairings that I think will make for an interesting match at the pay-per-view, so I decided to add that as the 9th match on the pay-per-view. It has made things a little bit tight trying to keep it to a 3-hour pay-per-view, but I think we can go a little bit over if we need to. The World Heavyweight Champion confronts the man in charge as he speaks about these big matches and calls out his perceived favouritism towards Lashley. He's tried to keep quiet, with implied that this is a feeling that Kurt Angle has, but now he's coming out and saying that he can't hold it in anymore. The way Paul speaks about them, the way he treats them, the way he acts around them, it's obvious what he wants. Paul's vision is all we've heard about all year, but Kurt thinks that that vision is Lashley standing tall at Slammiversary. Kurt is going to make sure, however, that that isn't going to happen. I didn't notice, though, that this is a really, really good segment. A much better way to start the second hour, gaining heat to the storyline, Paul Heyman doing well, improvising, and even the commentary helping us, them two on their game. Heyman responds to Kurt, telling him that he is paranoid, and when Kurt gets paranoid, that's when bad things happen. He's his own worst enemy. Paul says that if anything costs Kurt this Sunday, it's all going to be in his own head. Paul asks him that if he's in Lashley's corner and he wants Kurt to lose, why is Angle getting the night off tonight while the challenger is in action up next? Kurt Angle doesn't really have an answer for this, but gets in Paul Heyman's face, warning him that if he does anything on Sunday, if he tries to screw the World Heavyweight Champion, he is going to pay. Paul Heyman is intimidated by Kurt Angle, but holds his hand up. He promises that nothing is going to happen. He's just trying to promote this big match. Paul may have his preferences with having this new vision, but he's not going to influence the outcome of any matches. That's not why he's here. He is here to put on the best matches, and if Bobby Lashley happens to be better than Kurt Angle, that's great, but if Kurt leaves with the World Heavyweight Championship, Heyman's not going to have a problem with that at all. It's an extremely short match against a local talent, Navy Blue. He did have a dark match appearance on TNA in reality, this guy. I don't really know much else about him other than he worked a few shows for FCW. That's just from Googling him. He was called Navy Blue in TNA. Deshaun something, I can't remember his surname, but Bobby Lashley destroys him. He is 6'6", so we are putting over that this is a huge, intimidating, imposing guy, but compared to Bobby Lashley, he is pretty much nothing. A Dragon Sleeper, a move that with bringing back into Bobby Lashley's repertoire is enough for him to pick up the victory. Only a 68, so slight concerns that this is the guy who's going to be in the main event of Slammiversary. Thankfully, Kurt Angle, I think, can carry him to a pretty great match, and if we book it right, then it should deliver, I think. Bobby Lashley looking excellent out there, and like I said, that 6'6" guy just manhandled and tossed around by the number one contender. For another decisive victory, Bobby Lashley stands tall in the ring, with Kurt Angle returning to ringside from the back. Lashley makes it clear straight away, even though he's just been in a match, he is ready to fight Kurt, but the champ is tentative. He's starting to get those doubts in his mind. We are putting across that Kurt Angle is kind of put out psychologically by this. After becoming the world champion, he's changed a little bit. He's got more desperate. He was all about that focus and that drive and that vision to get the championship, but now he's got it. He's very much paranoid that everybody's out to get him. He's come up short in the last two interactions between himself and Lashley. He eventually decides to run in the ring, maybe looking to catch Lashley off guard, but once again, he's unable to get the better of the challenger. Lashley's just too strong for him, and Kurt ends up locked in the Dragon Sleeper, just like Navy Blue had found himself moments earlier. Lashley has put numerous opponents away with that move, and it looks like he's going to choke Kurt out again. Well, it's clear that he could have done that there and then. He perhaps sends an even stronger message by letting Angle go. He throws him down to the canvas. Of course, that's going to belittle the World Heavyweight Champion. Lashley standing tall once more as Kurt rolls to the outside. Mauro and Taz put over the challenge that the World Heavyweight Champion faces at Slammiversary, one of the toughest challenges he will ever have faced, the first Kurt Angle v Bobby Lashley match ever in TNA, and Taz says that he has not seen anybody get the better of Kurt like this in a long, long time. The World Heavyweight Championship match advancing with another good segment, Kurt Angle performing well, and like I said, this is a much better start to the second hour, better than anything we had in the first hour, that's pretty clear. Heading to the back, again, I've missed somebody who was supposed to be on screen. Jeremy Borash was in this angle, but I've not put him on the screen. Brian Kendrick and Paul London are interviewed in the back, but unlike the British Invasion and the Motor City Machine Guns, Jeremy Borash has had to seek out the two men. They are shown laughing about something in a corner of the building. They're sat on some steps, and they don't really seem focused on the match. They're still in their sort of casual clothing, and they're just relaxing and talking. Jeremy Borash reminds them they'll be competing in tonight's main event, but they're well aware. Paul London says that the two of them have a pre-match ritual, and they'd appreciate it if Borash left them alone to do it. Kendrick then starts heading up the stairs, telling JB that there's a reason that they're multiple-time tag team champions, and tonight is just another match for them. So they're laid back. I wonder why. They're calm and they don't seem concerned about the match tonight. They've been there and done that. They've held the tag team champions in WWE longer than anybody, although they don't say that. But the idea here is that they've always done things like this. They don't need to get into the zone and be all macho. We're trying to bring a bit more of their real life personalities from what I've seen in interviews onto the screen with them, both improvising well, so it's working in our favour as it gains heat to the storyline with a 69 rated segment. We then get Mauro and Taz speaking and introducing a video package which recaps the return of Sting from last week. During an in-ring segment featuring Bad Influence, Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles, the lights in the Impact Zone went down. One single spotlight illuminated an area in the rafters with Sting walking into the light to end the episode of Impact. Despite his demeanour earlier in the night, we then see exclusive footage of Christopher Daniels' initial reaction. He of course said that that wasn't really Sting, but at the time he was in complete disbelief, and it was actually Kazarian who had to convince him that it wasn't Sting. Matt Morgan simply stared up to the returning icon. Later tonight, Sting is set to appear in the ring for the first time since Bound for Glory, and seeing will be believing for Bad Influence. So just further putting promotion into Sting's return. I rated this just on Sting to see what kind of rating it'd get. A 60 isn't particularly good, but I think it was only a 3-minute segment, so I would have hoped for better for a video package just rated on Sting. But yeah, just further promoting that final segment of the show. We are going to have that main event, as it were, but the main event, or the main part of the show, the go home segment, is going to be that Sting promo. An extremely short match, unfortunately. We will have promoted this throughout the night, Kazuchika Okada versus Samoa Joe, but it's a win for Samoa Joe, albeit by disqualification, when Wolfe comes in and attacks Samoa Joe during the match. A little bit disappointing. Larry Sweeney doing a good job at ringside, but it does lose heat to our storyline. Again, we're getting that note about them being on the different sides of the face-heel divide, but I don't think that's that confusing. I think having faces with a heel manager, I think that's fine. The idea is kind of that Okada's being manipulated or will be going forward, so I think that's kind of fair enough for the character, but I suppose I'm sure it's not going to take that many points off our show anyway, because I don't even have a face-heel divide enforced. I have it, but not strict or anything like that. But after the match, Desmond Wolfe continues to attack Samoa Joe, and Kazuchika Okada isn't happy at all. He was supposed to be having probably the biggest match of his TNA career so far against Samoa Joe, a big chance for him 3 nights before that huge pay-per-view match, but he's led away by Larry Sweeney. Having got Okada this big test, that's what we were putting over on commentary during the match. Larry Sweeney's only been here 1 week, and what a job he's doing by landing Okada a huge high-profile match. So all that praise that we've given him stripped away because of what Desmond Wolfe has done, and his reaction does raise suspicions. Was he aware of the attack that was going to take place? The commentator stopped short of suggesting he's in cahoots with Desmond Wolfe, but there is the implication that Larry Sweeney seems all too okay with this. Maybe some kind of agreement was reached. The attack is certainly convenient for Wolfe, who will face Joe at Slammiversary. He got him exactly where he wanted him. Last week, Samoa Joe had verbally berated Desmond Wolfe, and while he doesn't take a microphone himself, Wolfe returns the favour. Joe's on the ground, and Desmond Wolfe yells right in his face, telling him that he is going to beat him this Sunday. We will see just how tough Desmond Wolfe is. Taz points out that while there is so much riding on the World Heavyweight Championship match at Slammiversary, he thinks that Joe versus Wolfe could well be the most physical match on this Sunday's Slammiversary card. So that's how we're trying to differentiate this match. It's going to be a brutal, physical match, perhaps even putting over, maybe Maro says, that this is a type of match that you may not have seen very often in TNA. Samoa Joe and Desmond Wolfe very much will be working their Ring of Honor style, and I think that's probably a little bit more brutal and physical than anything we'll see from other people in TNA. Desmond Wolfe may have shown a little bit of that during his feud with Kurt Angle. Joe's probably shown it on occasions, but I think getting these two in the ring together, it's going to be a huge, brutal match, and that's what we're going to try and sell it on as we go into Slammiversary. It's not had the deepest of builds. The heat's going to be in the high 60s, but I'm hopeful it can potentially steal the show at the pay-per-view. Returning from the commercial break, Larry Sweeney is shown on the top of the stage. He is with Kazuchika Okada, and they are interviewed by Jeremy Borash. Larry Sweeney once again putting over the marquee match that he has put together for Slammiversary. For the first time ever, the X Division Championship and the Global Championship will be defended in the same match at the same time, and Okada is going to be the first Globe X champion. Jeremy Borash kind of pulls his face at this name, and Roderick Strong comes out to the top of the ramp, questioning this arrangement between Okada and Sweeney. He's not been able to speak to Okada all week. He was pretty close with him over the few months where they both were newcomers in the company, but now he's not been able to get anywhere near him. Sweeney once again stops Okada from responding to Strong, telling him that he is trying to get into the challenger's head tonight. He's afraid of losing that belt to the best young wrestler in the world. As Strong continues, it's him who is cut off this time. He's cut Jay Lethal off a couple of times in recent weeks, but the global champion cuts him off instead. Lethal says that Roderick Strong is worried about his friend Okada when he should be worried about Jay Lethal. Once again, showing a more self-assured side, Lethal puts over that he beat Matt Morgan and Abyss at Sacrifice, and he lays his hands on the X Division title, and with the Global Championship around his waist, the X Division Championship is going to look great on his shoulder. So it's an average segment for what has been an average storyline. I didn't expect to get a great amount of heat, but hopefully we can have a good match. Of course, Okada's ratings are lagging a little bit behind Strong and Jay Lethal, but I just like the idea of this match more than anything. The idea that it's three young guys who haven't necessarily been featured more. If we're talking about young, hungry, aggressive guys who are getting that opportunity, who are being given the spotlight to shine and to show what they're capable of. If you look at where we were last year, probably Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, Booker T were all on the card. On Sunday, we are going to get a spotlight match for the future of TNA, and these three young guys are just about as good as it gets when it comes to in-ring competition. Jeff Hardy improvises poorly as he's approached in the back by Lauren Brooke. Lauren says that we're getting so close to the big moment, the excitement is palpable, she's so enthusiastic and excited, and she asks Jeff Hardy if he can confirm that Sting is in the building tonight. A smile grows across Jeff Hardy's face, and he says that just like last week, the only thing that's for sure about Sting is that nothing's for sure. However, he can confirm that Sting is somewhere in the building, and he will address the Impact Zone tonight. We then go into that triple threat main event, and it's a decent match. All three teams showing great chemistry as we get the crowd buzzing. It's not particularly great. I do think this show will be okay because of a few of the segments that we've had, and by the segment that will follow. London and Kendrick standing out above the rest, which maybe lends into the fact that they should be going on to Slammiversary to face Beer Money, but they won't be. It is the Most City Machine Guns at Beer Money rematch that we're getting. I would have liked to have, well, initially I planned to have this as the opener, and then we're going to do a little bit more build between Machine Guns and Beer Money throughout the night. But then I looked at the other matches on the card. It's difficult, I find, on a go-home show to put together a great match card, because if the vast majority of our roster is booked, then it's hard to have any of them lose. That Okada Samoa Joe match was the only match between two people, I think, that are in significant matches at the pay-per-view, and that ended with a screwy non-finish. I didn't want to do too many of them, so we came up with this match. The Machine Guns picking up the victory. The other two teams will be in that tag team battle royal that I mentioned earlier. That'll just be a 20-man battle royal. Everybody's going to be paired up, and I'll explain that as the teams come out at the pay-per-view. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin then celebrating the ring, but as their arms are raised, they are attacked by Brutus Magnus and Doug Williams. They regroup very quickly. The bitter losers that are British Invasion take out their frustrations on the Machine Guns. They don't get too much in because Generation Me run down to the ring to clear the ring of them, making the save for Shelley and Sabin. Nick and Matt Jackson send Magnus and Williams to the outside before clotheslining them over the guardrail. The two teams fighting off through the crowd, which leaves Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin down on the ground. They're feeling the effects not only of the match, but of the post-match attack. This isn't a good segment and loses heat in the go-home segment, technically, for this storyline, so not happy with that, really. The Machine Guns dust themselves off, but Beer Money come down to the ring, offering to help the challengers to their feet, a condescending gesture, of course, from Rude and Storm, after what they've done to Shelley and Sabin, to now offer them the hand to help them back up ahead of their match. Shelley and Sabin, of course, reject the offer, instead making their own way back to their feet and getting in the faces of the champions. They say that they've waited 3 months for this opportunity and they're not going to throw it away. Mauro and Taz say that this is the tag team title match that everybody wanted. Machine Guns delivered on their end of the bargain, and we're going to the final commercial with Beer Money and Motor City Machine Guns going face to face. Losing heat to the storyline, like I said. A poor segment, but hopefully that brings the crowd down and that can play into the final segment of the show, which gets a decent rating. I would have hoped for a little bit better, but we return to Impact. The commentators running through the pay-per-view card one last time, again promoting that tag team battle royal that's been added at the last minute. We see Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles are already in the ring as they await the arrival of their partner, the ring announcer introducing the Icon Sting. Sting takes time to soak in the reception of his first entrance in over 8 months. He goes around embracing the fans before cutting his promo on the Dream Team versus Bad Influence match at Slammiversary. Sting says that in the ring with him, two guys who he knows are going to carry TNA through this next decade. And it's because of them that when he thought he was out, they pulled him back in. After Bound for Glory last year, when AJ proved to him that it was time to pass on that torch, that the future was now, and AJ was ready to carry this company, he was content. His job here had been done. He came to TNA to establish these guys, to help make this company, to get it on the map, and proud of what he'd done, proud of his career, and proud to end it on his own terms. He was happy that he'd lost to one of the best, and he'd shown that the new era was ready to begin. But in 2010, change was afoot in TNA, and he got that itch again. He watched AJ Styles rise to the top, be the highest of the high, and then fall back down and go through struggles that Sting himself has gone through, going through a crisis of confidence, not knowing what was next. Watching Jeff Hardy don the face paint like he had for so many battles during his career, these two guys in the ring with him right now, they inspire Sting. And when they reached out to him, asking him to be their partner, he knew that he had to be in. He sends the warning to Bad Influence for Sunday at Slammiversary. He sees all the young guys doing so well in TNA right now, and he has to be a part of this. He's feeling younger, fresher, and more ready than ever. And with 8 months out of the ring, he has so much built up that he's going to let out at Bad Influence on Sunday at the pay-per-view, the biggest show of the year. AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy and Sting are going to bring it to Bad Influence. So gaining heat to the storyline with a strong promo from Sting. He's really just there to put over the two guys in the ring. They are our top names. Kurt Angle with the World Heavyweight Championship, of course. But in terms of, I think, marketability and long-term stuff, AJ and Jeff Hardy are going to have to be our top two faces. I think that is if Jeff Hardy can stay away from the issues that plagued him in reality. We'll see how my timeline works out compared to the one in reality. I would like to play what happened in real life into it, but for now that's not a concern because we got at least a year out of Jeff Hardy before things really went off the rails. That's a topic for another time. Sting improvising well, thankfully, performing well and getting the crowd hotter to end the show. Hopefully that will hype people up for Slammiversary. A good episode, 74 rating, happy with that, increasing our popularity in 24 regions, and it's just 3 nights now until that pay-per-view. Really looking forward to this show. I've talked about it for so long, I've put it over so much that it really has to deliver, and I do think that despite the questionable ratings we're getting from Lashley, that main event will be good. I think the Sting, AJ, Jeff Hardy, them teaming together, the pure star power in that match is going to help us definitely. Air Paris, fake Sting has gone. Why is Tom Conan? I think just because he was only a 1-night deal, it's not going to tell me about that. But Matt Morgan talks well, so perhaps we need to give him the microphone rather than Daniels. Daniels' promos aren't particularly good, whereas apparently Morgan, according to Scott D'Amore, is really good. Again, these poor ratings for Impact, and my TV deals are coming up, so we can't get the primetime deal with Spike anymore. So basically things are going from bad to worse, I think, in terms of broadcasting. Those numbers I probably shouldn't take too much notice of, but hopefully this pay-per-view in 2 days' time could be our best rated yet. I'll put the card on the screen, and as always, thanks for watching.